All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Derek James, the trainer of Jermell, Charlo, and Errol Spence Jr., gives his 2 cents about a fight that has to happen. It has to happen. It has to happen. It has to happen. And that is Jermell Charlo versus Jason Rosario for the 154-pound WBA, WBC, and IBF titles. Let's talk about exactly why Derek James says that Jermell Charlo beats Rosario, and let's do that in this video. All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Gotta love boxing, man. Another day, another boxing conversation. Errol Spence Jr.'s trainer, Derek James, let me not be disrespectful, forgive me. Jermell Charlo's trainer, Derek James, says that Jermell Charlo will beat Jason Rosario if and when these guys fight. But he's very, very complimentary of Jason Rosario. He says he believes Jason Rosario is a great fighter. He goes through the fight. He goes through and gives his opinion about the fight that took place between Jason Rosario and Julian J-Rock Williams. He says that, Jason Rosario on that day decided he was not going to lose. He stepped to J-Rock, and it was a close fight for a couple rounds, and then around the 3rd round, Jason Rosario hit him with something good. I'm paraphrasing, and then J-Rock started to fade. As you guys know, if you watch the fight, J-Rock winds up knocking out. J-Rock winds up being knocked out by Jason Rosario, and and here we are with the 2 major champions. There's 3 champions in the 154-pound division. One is a dude named Teixeira. Another dude, the other one is Rosario, and the last one is Charlo. Charlo has the WBC, Rosario has the WBA and the IBF, and Teixeira has the WBO, or as Keith Thurman likes to call it, WB no. Because he said nobody wants it. Now, I would love for Teixeira to be in this mix, but with the way that the WBO belt has been going at 154 pounds, it's like it shouldn't even be considered a major championship belt at 154 pounds, because it is just so obviously set aside for fighters from Golden Boy and Top Rank. And they are showing absolutely no willingness, no conversation whatsoever about having fights with the more established and what I believe to be legitimate 154-pound fighters. So this fight in my book, between Jason Rosario and Jermell Charlo would be obviously for the number 1 154-pounder. But I think if everything was right and everything was fair in boxing, would be considered an undisputed championship, because that lineage over there for the WBO is absolutely ridiculous. An old, tired Miguel Cotto beat somebody else that was old and tired, and then Saddam Ali, who is really a 140-pounder. I think he might have started at 140-pounder, but he's Saddam Ali. That's enough. Beats Miguel Cotto, and then he loses to Jaime Munguia, Jaime Munguia positively acts like he don't want no smoke with anybody at the other champions at 154 pounds. And then Jaime Munguia, after having fought nobody at 154 pounds for the whole time he was there, moves up to 160 after having looked really shoddy against Dennis Hogan. And then the vacant belt goes to Teixeira, and I've yet to hear anything out of Teixeira's mouth or out of his promoter's mouth that would lead me to believe that they were going to actually get this guy in the ring to fight with the other 154 pounders. So in my book, this 154-pound matchup between Jason Rosario and Jermell Charlo is the 154-pound matchup that determines who the best guy is. And it's and I believe, because I think that Jermell Charlo is going to win that fight. I don't know if this would be the case if it was Rosario that won, but in my book, if this fight is so significant that if Jermell Charlo beats Jason Rosario, that Jermell Charlo should then, and I'm going to campaign for it hard, should get the respect this guy deserves and be placed by the mainstream yap guys well inside of the top 10 pound for pound fighters in the world. For me, Jermell Charlo is already there. He has everything that you need in a fighter that would determine that would lead to him to be considered to be a pound for pound top fighter. My criteria for, and then again, my respect to Scrapbook Boxing, who enlightened me to this. I'm going to say that about another 100 times, just so you know where it came from, because it's just so obvious that so few people actually look at it this way, that boxing is set on rules. Boxing has rules. And the rules are what defines whether or not you're a successful boxer or not, or whether you're a good boxer or not. So what are the rules? The rules, it's the scoring criteria, or rather the scoring criteria that the judges use to decide whether or not you won a round, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Hey, who's the better fighter? Well, what metrics are you going to use? Well, let's use the metrics that are used to score a fight. Well, because they're fighters, and the whole job in there is to either knock the guy out or to win a round based on points. So if you're going to win a round, how do you win the round? You win it on clean, effective punching. You win it by clean, effective punching, defense, ring generalship, and effective aggressiveness. So if you look at Jermell Charlo, you see that the guy has defense, he has ring generalship, he has a clean and effective punching, and he has effective aggressiveness in spades. The dude is a knockout artist at 154 pounds. He went from being a boxer, a guy that could fight on the outside and slip punches, hit and not be hit, the way that he was trained by Ronnie Shields when Ronnie Shields was his trainer. And then he shifted when he moved to Derek James and became a guy that would seek and destroy you, go to your body and eventually take you out. The guy can fight both, has fought both styles and is highly successful at both styles. And he is the long reigning, although he had a little blip, obviously, with Tony Harrison, but he got his get back from Tony Harrison and won by knockout. First was a close fight that I think should have went to Jermell Charlo, and then the second fight was a knockout. Wound up being a close fight until the ultimate until the notorious until he got his ass knocked out. Oops, sorry, that was a cuss word. Didn't intend that. Till he got knocked out. The dude should be a top pound for pound fighter. This fight, I think, should, even in the eyes of these dudes, Freudian slip there, these dudes would put him there. He would be a three division. He would be not a three division, excuse me. He would be holding 3 of the major championship belts. The same number of belts, by the way, that Anthony Joshua holds. The same number of belts not Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua had been on people's pound for pound list, but I wouldn't put him there because he's a heavyweight. But it's your choice if you want to. But if you look at Canelo Alvarez, that's the same number of belts that Canelo Alvarez held at middleweight when he beat Gennady Golovkin. It's the same number of belts that Gennady Golovkin held, and Gennady Golovkin has a loss, and he's still on that list. So he'd be one of the very rare fighters in boxing that have 3 belts in a division. You could also say another one that has 3 belts in a division, even though, it's kind of suspect now since he got elevated to the super champion, is Vasily Lomachenko. So if you have 3 belts, you're one of the very few people that have 3 belts in a division, and you've been a long reigning champion in that division, dude, you should be up there. Now, as far as what that fight would happen in that fight, I've got Jermell Charlo for the same reasons that Derek James has him. Derek James said that it's going to be his speed and athleticism, along with his skill, that will beat Jason Rosario. But that Jason Rosario is a great fighter, but Jermell Charlo will get him because of those factors. And I think that's about right. Jason Rosario is not somebody that you want to sit and take shots from, right? So you versus a J-Rock, where J-Rock was fighting, the fight was always at mid-range, right? It was always at mid-range, and I wouldn't consider J-Rock to be the most elusive fighter in the world. He does take, quick angles, shifting out to the left, shifting out to the right, and he's very shifty inside that mid-range, but it's still, the fight pretty much can stays in there, and he is just a little bit chinny. So the fact that he's a little bit chinny, he fights at relatively close quarters, and Jason Rosario has so much power, and he was so intent that night on getting the job done. That was bad. That was a bad makeup. That was a bad look for him. I don't think that's going to be the case with Jermell Charlo. I think I think that Jason Rosario is going to find it a lot more difficult to lay a solid punch on Jermell Charlo, especially if Jermell Charlo is deciding that he's not going to try to get hit. And then Jermell Charlo takes him into the later rounds, tires him out a little bit. Maybe that power goes away a bit. And I see Jermell Charlo stepping up and really taking to him. And he probably will get him out of there because Jason Rosario, similar to J-Rock, is chinny, right? And wind up getting knocked out by Nathaniel Gallimore. So it's hard for me to believe that if Nathaniel Gallimore can pull it off, that Jermell Charlo can't. But that's my take on the matter. Man, this is hashtag Jermell Charlo for top pound for pound. Let everybody know who, and because it's just not, it's just crazy how some of these guys get left off there for some other guys. Juan Carlos Estrada, and not Jermell Charlo doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.